Hey guys, this is episode 1 of a new series entitled Jackson's Sibling Rivalries, which will give details and insight of family drama between the siblings. To start off, in 1975, the Jacksons had made their split from Motown Records and headed to CBS Epic Records, with Jermaine Jackson staying behind. That same year, the Jacksons had moved ahead with another one of their siblings joining the group as a replacement for Jermaine, which was their younger brother Randy. Now, Randy was always a part of the family variety show and act, but never had gotten a chance to be a part of the group, the Jackson 5, with his brothers, being that he was too young. Now, once Randy was added to the group, despite Jermaine not being a part of the group anymore, him being the older brother and of course a little bit more famous, he had an issue with Randy originally replacing him. Fast forward 11 years later to 1986, Randy would meet Alejandra Owaziaza and they would date between 1986 and 1992 and would share 2 children together. There's a small catch with this story, you see, because Randy Jackson, while dating Alejandra, got married to Alizia Chaffee in August 1989. Now, this leads to a lot of confusion, so let me explain the timeline. 1986, Randy and Alejandra began dating. March 1989, Randy and Alejandra would break up during Alejandra's pregnancy. August 1989, Randy marries Alizia Chaffee. December 1989, Randy and Alejandra welcomes baby girl Genevieve Jackson into the world. June 1990, Randy and Alizia welcomes baby girl Stevana Jackson. Between June 1990 and December 1991, Randy has a 1-year affair with his ex, Alejandra, behind his wife Alizia's back, which resulted in Stephen Randall Jr. being born in October 1992. Also, in October 1992, Alizia would divorce Randy. Between 1991 and 1995, Alejandra and Randy Jackson would begin dating again during Randy's marriage to Alizia. Somewhere over the years between 1990 and 1995, Alejandra and Randy's brother Jermaine would mess around secretly in the midst of Randy being married to Alizia while he dated Alejandra. Jermaine also was cheating on his then girlfriend Margaret Maldonado with Alejandra. It was so much of a mixture going on in this situation. 1995, Jermaine marries Alejandra, and this causes a major rift between Jermaine and Randy as brothers, which caused them to have a sibling rivalry. Now, according to a Jackson family friend named Stacy Brown, Alejandra confided in him and said the following: "Randy didn't treat me like I was the one. I just thought that Jermaine was different and that he was more family-oriented." Randy is devastated by what Alejandra said to Stacy Brown about him, so in turn he said this: "She couldn't have chosen any Joe Blow down the street, but my brother? In the same house? She's a pig, and my brother is a fool. Stacy, watch your women around my brother. You're around him an awful lot. Look what he did to me." Almost 2 years went by between 1995 and 1997 where Randy and Jermaine were at complete odds and couldn't be around each other. In 1997, during a Jackson Brothers meeting with Stacy Brown included, they were all in discussion about the Jackson 5 induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. During that meeting, Jermaine voiced his disdain over Randy's feelings about the marriage to Randy's ex Alejandra. Now, Jermaine then says to Stacy Brown about Randy while in front of him, he needs to get over it leave all the petty stuff behind and act like a man. Stacey Brown comes to Randy's defense saying you not only took his woman, but you had children with her and you married her. There's nothing petty about that, huh? I could see the sarcasm in Stacey Brown's statement, but Jermaine shrugged his shoulders like he really didn't care and says, I just don't want anything to do with Randy, and he better not be a problem on the way to the ceremony. Stacey Brown then says, dudes, this isn't as much of a problem as you're making it out to be. Randy isn't a member of the Jackson 5. He joined the group when you were called the Jacksons. The J5 is being inducted, so there shouldn't be a problem. The feud would continue for years to come, till the brothers eventually brought their rivalry to a close when it was time to reunite the Jacksons for the 30th anniversary of their brother Michael. Alright guys, that just about wraps up the first episode of Jackson Sibling Rivalries. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and set those notifications for more from the Just Mr. P YouTube channel. Much love, my people, and I'll see you guys next time.
I had this massive bush. I didn't like it, but I never really knew what to do or if there was really anything I could do about it. And that's why Manscaped developed the first all-in-one manscaping kit for below-the-waist grooming and hygiene, called the Perfect Package.
Hey guys, this is episode 2 of a new series entitled Jackson Family Rivalries, which will give details and insight of family drama that happened during past instances. To start off, the 80s was the decade that Michael Jackson would dominate with 2 explosive albums, one entitled Thriller and the other Is Bad. With the release of that album, a brief but hilarious feud would ensue between the Jackson brothers, Michael and Jermaine. Now the details of this story comes from LaFace record executive L.A. Reid, who happened to write about this particular rivalry that was put to a stop as fast as it started in his 2016 book entitled Sing to Me. The story goes that Jermaine had originally felt a little disdain for his brother as a musician in the early 80s, since his brother Michael was dominating music since leaving the Jacksons and heading the solo route. Jermaine thought that when he stayed at Motown in 1976, he would have reached the top of the charts as a solo artist, but all the attention stayed focused on his brothers, and then even further focus would go to his brother Michael once the release of Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. Jermaine would say the following statement: "That was supposed to be me. That's why I stayed at Motown. We had plans, but once Michael beat me to it, he made sure it would only be him." That quote was a statement that Jermaine had made to family friend Stacey Brown, whose story was the basis of the first episode. Those underlying feelings carried on down through Michael's success, but what made the rivalry intensify for a short bit was this particular moment mentioned in L.A. Reid's book. According to a chapter in the above-mentioned book, L.A. Reid and Babyface signed Jermaine Jackson to the LaFace label sometime in 1989, which made Jermaine Jackson pack up and move to the city of Atlanta. Both Reid and Babyface guaranteed him a hit album that would make the charts and put him in the ranks with his brother, if not father. From what L.A. Reid says, He received a random phone call from Michael around the same time he and Babyface was to begin production on Jermaine's album. Michael has suggested that L.A. Reid and Babyface fly out to Los Angeles immediately to come work with him. They both agreed and left Jermaine clueless to where they went when it was time to work on his album. When Jermaine did find out, he demands to L.A. Reid for him to be let out of his contract with LaFace. L.A. Reid would then tell Michael about Jermaine's request to cancel his contract, and Michael simply said, and I quote, "He'll get over it." But little did they know that Michael was wrong. Jermaine was not over him being duped for his production of his album, which was pushed back until 1991. Now, during production for the album, Jermaine would pen the song Word to the Bad, which was a diss song to his brother Michael, in which L.A. Reid, Babyface, and Lisa Left Eye Lopez from TLC would help him co-write. The song took shots at Michael's looks, his issues with vitiligo, and primarily called Michael selfish throughout the entire duration of the song.
But not to put you on the spot, Jermaine, but didn't you kind of exacerbate the sense that he had intentionally changed his skin color with that song?
That was creative anger.
Lyrics were kind of rough. Once you were made, you changed your shade. Was your color wrong? Could not turn back. It's a known fact. You're too far gone. Reconstructed. Been abducted. Don't know who you are.
Yeah.
By 1991, Jermaine Jackson would release the album entitled You Said, with Word to the Bad being the first single. The song would chart on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 78 and was the best-selling single from the album. Critics had said that this was Jermaine's best album yet, but the success would be put to a halt. Now, let's rewind a few months backwards, back to August 1991. Now, the song Word to the Bad will be picked up in heavy radio rotation. Michael would find out and he would call L.A. Reid and say the following: "You have to stop this. You're the head of the label. You have to kill this. This isn't good." According to what L.A. Reid says in the book, and I quote, "It wasn't my fight and I wasn't going to referee a fight between the Jackson brothers. I told him that it didn't matter if I agreed with him. The matter was between him and his brother and I couldn't help. Jermaine was insisting that his record be released. Apparently, Michael and Jermaine held a meeting at their mother's home at Havenhurst. I wasn't there and I don't know what happened, but they came out of the meeting. Jermaine called me. We resolved it," he said. "The record stays out." Then Michael calls back. "Jermaine and I had our conversation," he said, "but I'm telling you, you really need to stop this. This is not good." 2 days later, the record disappeared off the air as if it had never been there in the first place. I don't know what Michael did. I don't know if Michael did anything, but it went away in a flash. And just like that, the song Word to the Bad was pulled from the radio airwaves, and the success Jermaine almost had from the release of the album was put to the bottom of the charts, with his brother Michael releasing the Dangerous album in November 1991, just 1 month after the release of Jermaine's album You Said. Michael would release a few more albums past Dangerous, and Jermaine would take a break from releasing music to focus on his family and dedicating his time to then studying the Muslim religion. Even though this particular incident happened between the brothers, this situation has since been resolved, and Jermaine and Michael's relationship as brothers would strengthen over time, and Jermaine would become Michael's biggest supporter over the years through his troubles with the media and the claims of false legal grandeur. Thank you everyone for tuning into this video. Much love to you all, and be sure to follow me on social media for more, and hit that subscribe button along with that notification bell for more from the Just Mr. P YouTube channel. Take care, my people, and I'll see you for the 3rd episode.
Out of all 3 meals, which one do you want to eat tonight? Definitely this one, crispy Parmesan chicken.
Okay.
The other two look good too, but this one definitely, that's what
That
we
chicken
eat all
looks
the time.
amazing.
This video is not for kids. This video may contain suggestive themes, graphic images, and triggering topics. Anything said within this video is for strict research purposes only. This channel nor this video condones any harassment or illegal activities from any reaction you may have from this content.
This is Jackson Family Rivalries, Episode 3, which will give details and insight to family drama that happened during past instances. Now in this episode, I will tread very lightly on how I explain the ordeal that almost ended the marriage of the matriarch and patriarch of the Jackson family. Now, as Jackson fans in general, there would be no Jackson 5, no Michael, no Janet, or no 3T either without Katherine and Joe Jackson sharing their family with the world of entertainment. This all began during the year 1973 when Joseph Jackson would begin an affair outside of his marriage to Katherine with several women that included a Motown receptionist. Katherine would find out about his indiscretions and would head to the Los Angeles County Clerk's office to file for divorce on March 9, 1973. She would decide to drop the divorce after heavy convincing from Joe that the affair she found out about was nothing, and he assured her that she had nothing to worry about. Not only that, Katherine was also advised by her elders at the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall that in their faith, divorce is not an option, and that a divorce could only happen under certain stipulations. Of course, Joseph was not telling the truth to Katherine. He had a side relationship with his then-girlfriend Cheryl Terrell that would lead to her becoming pregnant in December 1973. The pregnancy of Cheryl Terrell would be kept a secret from Katherine, as Joe would keep it to himself until Katherine would find out in the year of 1982. But years before Katherine would find this information out, Joseph and Cheryl would bring baby girl Dwoodnyc Jackson into the world on August 30th, 1974. After the birth of Dwoodnyc, Joseph would continue seeing Cheryl in secret, which began the official 25-year relationship between them during the raising of Dwoodnyc. Joe Jackson would now have two families, his 10 children with Katherine and his child with Cheryl. Between the years of 1974 and 1982, a slew of strange phone calls would come in which the caller would hang up each time Katherine would answer. Things were looking suspect, but of course she stayed quiet and let anything she felt build up until that one day in 1982, when Joseph received a phone call that would change their marriage forever. Around this time period, Joseph would disappear for what he would call business meetings during times when Katherine needed him for things around the Havenhurst residence, and also by her side during services at the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. His absence was more frequent, and it is explained here in a passage from Giovanni's book, Bastard Child. Katherine believed Joseph was away on business when he was probably away with us for the weekend. He would come round most days, sometimes without warning. He was very much a presence in my life. I was a daddy's girl. I would be so excited. He would bring me presents, my favorite black walnut ice cream. I was spoiled rotten. One morning in 1982, the living room phone would ring, and when Katherine would pick up the phone, the person would quickly hang up. The person on the other end of the phone was Cheryl, but Katherine didn't know it. She thought it was a prank or someone just had the wrong number at first, but still kept her suspicions in the back of her mind. The calls and the hang-ups were happening all morning into the afternoon, which made Joseph ask Katherine what was up with the phone, and she explained that someone keeps calling, and when she picks up, that they would hang up. Joseph thought about it for a moment and quickly changed the subject and began to ask about ice pops and ice cream. She told him there was no ice pops, and there was ice cream in the freezer. Joseph acknowledged that there was ice cream in their freezer, but said he didn't want what was there. He wanted pecan and asked for Katherine to go out specifically to get that flavor. She agreed, but knew something wasn't right. Her gut instinct stopped her, and it is partly explained here in this movie scene.
Yeah. Could you go to the store and get some ice cream?
Ice cream? There's some in the fridge.
I want pecan.
Pecan.
Katherine would begin to walk slowly out of the Haven house to go get the ice cream that Joe had requested her to get. But as she was walking outside of the house, she actually heard the phone ring again, which made her turn back around and go inside to pick up the second phone connection. She would cover the phone with her hand in silence and would listen into the conversation. Now, the movie version never mentioned the truth behind that phone call and the reason that Katherine decided to leave Joseph at that very moment. During the call, Joseph would be heard talking with Cheryl about whether she received money he had sent her. The movie version cleaned it up and made it look as if it was a normal conversation between a cheating husband and his mistress, when all actuality, what Katherine heard was arguing about whether the woman on the other end of the phone had received money Joseph had sent her and whether he was going to come and see her. Now, Joseph was in a full-blown relationship with Cheryl, and like anyone in a relationship, you want to see that person you're dating. So the whole slew of empty phone calls and hang-ups were from Joseph's then secret girlfriend Cheryl. Katherine didn't even wait for the conversation to fully finish before she ran in the living room, letting him know that she heard what they were saying and that the call confirmed her suspicions of Joseph cheating again. In a fit of being upset, Katherine would slap and hit Joseph and tell him that their marriage was over. That resulted in Katherine shattering their wedding photo and leaving the Havenhurst house to stay with her mother for a couple of weeks till she was ready to speak to Joseph again. The relationship between Joseph and Cheryl, however, would continue as they were raising Giovanni as a couple. Now, as far as Katherine finding out about the affair between them, she knew, but she wouldn't find out about Giovanni till she turned 11 years old, but would never see her.
Hey, so this is a super easy way to cool down any room in your home to as low as 65 degrees in only 6 minutes. It doesn't matter how hot it is outside, and it doesn't matter if you have zero AC in your home.
Now, Giovanni, in an article to the Daily Mail, gives details to what it was like having Joseph Jackson as a father. She says, "My life was hush-hush. There was a grocery stores that we couldn't shop at. There were places we couldn't go in our own neighborhood. If we went to watch a movie, we would have to go miles out. My dad loves to watch movies. It was a real inconvenience when there was a movie theater right down the street." Joe was scared of a reporter seeing us, somebody taking pictures and putting it in a news article, and then have to go home and discuss this with an angry wife. Every time I went somewhere, he would drum it into me that I shouldn't talk about our family's business. I wasn't allowed to have anyone over the house. I complained and stomped my feet and told him, "Daddy, I don't have any friends." So he took me to a dog kennel and we bought 2 German Shepherd puppies called Lady and Bigfoot. He said, "There you go. There's your friends. Play with them." Katherine would again attempt to prep for divorce that same year in 1982, but would decide to stay due to her loyalty to Joseph and her devotion to her beliefs and principles to the Jehovah's Witness religion. Katherine would eventually see Joseph's other child during a day of pampering. Giovanni describes meeting Katherine for the first time on the talk show, The Talk. Now she says, "We walk in the salon, and there's Katherine Jackson sitting right there. I got so upset, so nervous, I was confused. And she said, she looks just like him. She said that to my best friend, so I left out and shouted, I'm gonna call my daddy." Over time, Katherine Jackson, with her kind heart, would embrace Giovanni, allowing her to call her mother, and Rebe Jackson would welcome her as her sister. The rest of the Jackson siblings, minus Michael, were standoffish and showed no interest towards getting to know her. Giovanni, however, would get to meet Michael at the age of 29 on a trip with her daughter to Neverland Ranch, in which she said Michael had ignored her while embracing his niece only. Michael and Giovanni would never actually get the chance to build a relationship as siblings. Even though Joseph decided to continue dating Cheryl over a 25-year period, Katherine would remain loyal to Joseph through their entire marriage, but ended up living in separate households. Joseph would move to Las Vegas, and Katherine moves to Calabasas, California with her grandson TJ. In 2014, Cheryl would break up with Joseph just before passing away, saying that she couldn't be with him any further. When Cheryl did pass away, Katherine and Rebe would be there for Giovanni while there was still a huge distance between her and her other siblings. Joseph Jackson would pass away in June 2018, just 4 years after him and Cheryl would split. Even though Katherine and Joe were physically separated, they remained married to the very end of Joe's life. Katherine, on the other hand, focused on her role as an author, a devout mother and wife, grandmother, advocate of her family, and defender of her family, especially for her son Michael. Katherine would become guardian to her son Michael's children after his death in 2009. She is currently 90 years old and living with her eldest daughter, Rebe. As for Giovanni, Joe's other child, she would become a mother and an author. Her daughter is Yasmin Jackson, and she would write a tell-all book called Bastard Child that was released in February 2018. The details included stories about her mother and Joseph's relationship, her relationship with her father, as well as issues of not feeling accepted by her siblings, with some stories that were too disrespectful to even mention in this video. In 2020, Giovanni had to nurse her daughter Yasmin back to health after a vicious attempt on her life. The situation helped mend some of the issues with the siblings, but the issues are still there. Here's my final thoughts on this whole entanglement. I understand both sides of the story regarding both Giovanni and the Jackson siblings' feelings, being that I can understand from a personal experience. Giovanni feels sour about not having the opportunity to get to know all of her famous siblings, but I can understand how the Jackson siblings feel regarding getting to know her. To my understanding, Joseph had completely different relationships with Giovanni than he did with her siblings. One, the Jacksons dealt with being spanked constantly and disciplined, while Giovanni admits Joe never spanked her except for bad grades. Two, the Jacksons were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses and was never able to be gifted or have celebrations for birthdays or Christmas, while Giovanni, on the other hand, was given all the things that Joe denied his other 10 children growing up. 3. The Jacksons doesn't appreciate the violating of their mother, as they grew up very close-knit, and Giovanni being the outside child by the product of Joseph's infidelity, they can't see past that, and I understand. 4. The Jacksons were never allowed to call their father dad. They were made to call him Joseph, while Giovanni, on the other hand, was allowed to call him daddy. There were so many ways that I can explain as to why I understand why Giovanni's siblings have a hard time letting go of the past. But some emotional pains can last a lifetime, and that pain for some may be unforgivable, even though Giovanni didn't ask to be brought into the world as a side child. That matter was a matter between their parents. Hopefully they can all get together and embrace their sister, and hopefully their sister Giovanni can stop doing interviews about the subject of their relationship and try to mend their relationship as siblings in full instead of blasting it to the public. And those are my final thoughts on this topic. Much love to everyone who tuned into this video. Please follow me on social media at the links on the screen. Also, drop a like on this video and hit subscribe with that notification bell active so you can be alerted to new video releases. Take care, my people, and I will see you next time.
Your heir can sell their property and make, whatever the profit is and not pay taxes on it. So I think that's a major thing when it comes to real estate. And that's the biggest difference